Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tao of the Day. And just checking out a couple things here. Uh, Nothing important. All right. Well, here I am presenting Tao of the Day. What is Tao of the Day? It is the moment. Well, whatever. This is a horrible start. Luckily, nobody's listening yet. So Tao of the Day. I'm just distracted. I got my kombucha. I'm going to start over. Welcome to Tao of the Day. This is Martin John. I am here to present you with the Tao Te Ching. Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BCE. It's an ancient text full of enigmatic wisdom and insight. It has 81 short verses that provide powerful sort of guidance and like ideas about how to live a harmonious life in balance with Tao or in balance with all of nature. When I say all of nature, that doesn't just mean like what's out in the woods, but what's in your home. Like you are an animal and you are part of nature. So what you do is natural. Um, so there is an underlying natural order of the universe, and you will have to surrender to that eventually. And that is what the Tao sort of helps you embrace. Now, the Tao Te Ching was written, and the reason why we look at the Tao Te Ching is because it is an ancient text, and it existed when we had exited the last feminine age of development of evolution, right? So the Tao Te Ching and the Old Testament of the Bible and the Quran. I mean, I don't know when the Quran was written, but my guess is any ancient text that we have, whether it revolves around religion or whether it revolves around philosophy or whatever. I mean, philosophy didn't exist then, right? Didn't exist as we understand it today. I mean, of course it existed. Everything existed before we named it something. But this is the stage, right, that ancient texts were written. They were written when we still had a grasp on the old way as the new way was entering um as the new way was entering our existence. So if I were to just spitball on this a little bit, right now we have people that know the next way, right? People that are in touch with the next way of doing things. And it's interesting because the last people to hold on to the logic are going to write things or are going to do things that are going to say, hey, don't lose logic. And as we move into the next stage, right, they're going to warn us to not lose touch with logic. And that's what the Tao Te Ching and these ancient texts really do, is they tell us, don't lose touch with relationship. Don't lose touch with your relationship to the natural world. That's what the Tao Te Ching and all ancient texts are trying to get us to do in different ways, right? The Old Testament of the Bible uses the logical sort of fear and all of that to express that, where the Tao Te Ching, um, so the Old Testament may or may not, I mean, originally, I don't know, approach the idea of getting the point across from the space of logic, whereas the Tao Te Ching uses the space of relationship to say don't lose track of relationship. And the Old Testament may very well be don't lose track of your relationship with God, um, and utilizes fear and other things. I mean, maybe it never utilized fear. Maybe that's just in translation and what ended up happening due to just translations and it being around so long and handled by so many people who got further and further embedded in logic. So the Tao Te Ching does not really um, like logic. It much prefers you have faith in yourself. You have faith in what is happening right now, not in a logic etiquette style of living that doesn't want you to live in a way that is predetermined. So it doesn't want you to raise your children in a way that will get them into college. It doesn't want you to raise your children in a way that will get them a good job. It doesn't want you to do those things, because if it were to do those things, if it were to embrace that way of thinking, then it would say then these are permanent traits, and none of those things are permanent traits. Jobs are actually pretty um, new in our existence, relatively. I mean, only the last couple hundred years have jobs really been something that you would have. I mean, sure, people had people were carpenters and things like that in Jesus's day, right? So we look 2,000 years ago, but those are vocations. Those are things that you knew how to do, and you did. It wasn't, like you just did that. And people would come to you and say, hey man, like I raise cows and you make tables, can I get a table for a cow or whatever, and that's the way things were, like, right, they were relationship oriented. Well, now they're, as we moved into a more logic mind, as our frontal lobe continued to develop, what we ended up really focusing on was the transaction, because transactions are logical, right? Like A plus B equals C. If this costs this, then I give you this and I get that. And as long as I'm holding up my end of the transaction. And how do we work with transactions? We build etiquette. How do we work with transactions? We build contracts. We have these things that are all intermixed, right? We have marriage, we have relationships, and those relationships have meanings, and those meanings have expectations, and it's all transactional. It's all transactional. You don't get to be who you are without a transaction, right? Like when you were a child and tried to be who you were, well, what happened was you weren't you weren't agreeing to the transactions your parents were saying, right? Your parents were just like, no, I didn't sign up for this. You have to do this and I'll make your life easy. And if you do something outside of that, I will make your life difficult, make it hard for you. And as I make it hard for you, you will make it easy for me, because you want it easier for you. And so you start living under the influence of your parents and then teachers and other people, your bosses and stuff. And then by the time you become an adult, you're so integrated into the influences of those around you, you have no idea who you actually are. And so the Tao Te Ching looks at this and says, this is all bad. Like this is all like, you can do it and it's going to help evolve mankind. But if you can align with the natural order of things and live a reasonable life, and what does it mean to live a reasonable life? It just means simply live a life where you don't ask other people to be anything other than they are. You don't ask other people to be anything for you. You simply get to be yourself. And so what I ask people to do is come up and pick a number between 1 and 81, because the Tao Te Ching consists of 81 short verses providing powerful guidance on how to live a harmonious life in balance with Tao. And Tao is really the underlying nature of the universe, and the Tao Te Ching expresses how we can live a more reasonable life in conjunction with the order of the universe, with Tao. It uses a lot of poetic language. And so what I do is when you pick a number, I read the whole thing. I get your ideas about what it's saying and what it's saying to you, because this is very much like picking a tarot card, like it has something for you. It always does. And when you get to recognize what it has for you, you can allow that to be to sit there, and then you and I can go through it line by line and kind of break it down a little further. And so that's what I like to do with the Tao. And that's what the Tao of the day really does. It helps you have a moment in your day where where you can just contemplate you and the Tao, and that which is going on with you. And then you can spend the rest of the day just kind of meditating on all of the things that came up in your Tao. So that is so that's what we're here to do. And if you are interested in picking a number between 1 and 81, please step up, and I would love to have a conversation with you about the Tao. So I've been writing notes so I can publish this version of the Tao, my version of the Tao. I wanted to be able to um, make notes for each chapter so people understood what it's saying, and how they can recognize it. And so when I pick a number, I often pick a number that I can utilize a little bit later. So I'm going to pick number 60 because I didn't write notes for this one yet, and I'll be able to think about it. And then after I'm done here, I'll be able to write those notes, and that'll be great. But if you have a number between 1 and 81 that you'd like to select, please step up, and I'd love to have you. I'd love to have you come up and us talk a little bit about the Tao. So number 60 is entitled "Combating Evil," and this is something that I feel like a lot of people want to do. Oh, Truly Julie's coming up. We're gonna pick a number with Truly Julie, and I can always return to number 60. Julie, dear, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm kind of like just waded myself through a load of mire over the last couple of days.
Oh
Been
yeah.
very strange, yeah. Um, I've been sat here kind of relaxing in the peace, and then suddenly the peace has. There's almost been too much of it, which has been very strange for me. It's like, wow, I asked for peace and now I've got peace. There's a lot of peace here. And then
Yeah.
yeah, it stimulated me into action again.
Yeah, well, that's
So
like that's what happens.
it's the ebb
Like
and the
you
flow.
need you need them both. You can't,
Yeah,
like when you ask for peace, the first thing that you're going to experience is discord, because
yeah,
you have to be able to recognize when peace has come. And so when you ask for peace, and a lot of people look at this idea of like the law of attraction as I'm going to attract what I want. True, but you are also being attracted by others. Like other people want things, like other people might want an argument. And well, here you are. Well, why don't we use you? Like, you want peace, so why don't we give you an argument so that you can experience peace afterwards? Right? Like, so
yeah.
it's like you sit there and you say, I want peace, and your neighbor says, I want an argument, and guess what? That works. Because I'm going to give you an argument, so afterwards you can have peace, and then they get the argument because that's what they've been looking for. It's
Very
like
strange, isn't it?
it's such a beautiful, like we always like to think, we only look at law of attraction in one way. It's like this is what I attract. But other people are attracting you as well, and how you get what you want isn't alone, right? We're not alone here. And so it's
No.
really important to recognize that, like, well, this chair just might want to be sat in. And so here I am sitting in it. Like, you know.
Something that I've gone through this peace period, and then I'm going back, and obviously you've assisted me with this, which I'm eternally grateful for. I'm going back to studying again
Yeah.
because we learn things together, and you've definitely assisted me with that as well.
Mm.
Um, I came to a kind of a standstill with it, and then I couldn't figure out what bit I needed to send off to my tutor and all of this kind of stuff. And when I look back at it, there's quite a few bits and pieces that I have sent, but they're not in order. And part of my brain says do it in order, but that doesn't make sense. Just do it when it's right. So anyway, I've tried to talk to my tutor, send her an email, and there's no reply, and I'm thinking, if I'm sitting here with no reply, then surely I need to utilize that space.
Hmm.
So what I've done is I know what the bits it is that I'm asking her about. Now move forward and
Right.
continue. That's all I can do. So that's the space I'm in today.
Well, let's find a number.
Number 11.
11. I know I like 11. So, emptiness is valuable.
Great.
Yep. Spokes, tire, rim, and hub all make a wheel. Yet it is the space where the axle goes that makes it worthwhile. Clay is formed into a vessel. A vessel's function is to hold things. Thus, its form includes emptiness. A house can be built, but if it were solid, it would be useless. It is easy to see the structure, but the structure is there to expose the value of emptiness.
Yeah.
So as we're talking about this time where like it's gone unanswered, right? Your email has gone unanswered. It's
Yes.
it's like your email is structure. Her
Yes.
response is structure. But
Yes.
you can't unless you are just an automaton, where like you're only going to act because of her response,
Yeah.
then that's the only way that her response has any real value as a thing.
Yeah.
It is this space in between your sending and your receiving that the work is actually done. You're not looking for her to you're looking for her to just guide you. But
Yes.
you're the only guide that you
Yes.
really have.
Yeah.
And so this moment as you sit, things start to formulate and you start to go through, like you were saying, well, should I put it in order? Should I? But I don't, it doesn't feel right to do that. And it's like, well, maybe it's not about any of that. Maybe it's just about being here and being empty
Mm.
and recognizing that this is you. This is who you are, right? There is an unsuredness with your action.
Yeah.
And it's important to recognize that you're there, that you're like, oh, I don't, like, somewhere along the line you kind of don't trust yourself, or
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
right, and that's okay, because you have trusted yourself to a brand new degree over the last year,
Yes.
and now you're at a new point where you're learning that you don't trust yourself in a different way.
Yes.
And so now you get to start over.
Hooray.
But it's not starting over from the old place. It's starting over from a new level in a new position. Because, like, when you went back to your nursing job, there was nothing you didn't know. You knew what to do, everything was easy. You just had it all down. Well, now you're starting something brand new, and you have to be a beginner again.
Yes.
You have to, and you can utilize this as an opportunity to not only just be a beginner, but this is, like you're a beginner many, many times in your life. But
Yeah. This is an experience.
right,
This is an experience I'm having,
and you're
which is
going
okay.
through this experience, and you're being asked to continue to be curious.
Yeah.
You're not being asked to know the answer. Sure, you can go ahead and reach out to your tutor and you can ask for the right way. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can
Mm.
also sit and ask yourself, especially during this stage, well, what do I want for this. And without being afraid of getting in trouble,
Yeah.
without being afraid of doing it wrong. You know,
Yeah.
when you were a child, those were the things that happened. You got in trouble, you did things wrong, you were yelled at, you were chastised, you were abandoned. There were all of the things. You are going to be able to start again enough times until you realize that you're safe.
Yeah.
And this is bringing up that within you, that fear, all of that other stuff, all of that. Am I going to be wrong? Am I doing the right thing? Am I going about this the right way? You know what? There is no right way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's right. That's the conclusion I came to. And I was
Right.
sitting there in that peace.
That's right.
And I thought, okay, just do what comes to you. Fill in
Right.
that time. Go forward. Be curious.
Yeah.
Continue to be curious. And that's, that I'm at this understanding that I don't know.
That's
It's
right.
an understanding that I've had many, many times in my life that I don't know. And here again it is. I don't know. But
Right.
just to stay curious is
Hmm.
great.
Yeah.
And that's where I am right now. So I'm just going on my own. I'm freelancing.
That's right. Absolutely. You know, and you have desires and destinations attached to all that you're doing right
Yes.
now. Okay.
I would
So
like to be able to utilize later what I am doing, practicing now.
yeah. And so in order to do that, you're preemptively entering into this relationship with yourself, saying like, well, I want to be able to do it right.
Also, I am doing this particular thing for me because it's teaching me something about me.
Right.
That's what's so delightful about it. So even if I get it all wrong, it doesn't matter. It's still teaching me something about me.
Right.
That is cool.
Yeah. And to be able to let yourself learn rather than, well, so be able to let yourself learn whether or not you look at this as right and wrong and what am I supposed to do and all of that. As long as you step back and say, oh, look at me do that, look at me reach out to my tutor instead of just
Struggling.
yeah. Why is my first action when I feel uncomfortable to reach out to my tutor than just sit in my discomfort?
Yeah, I did
Right.
do that for a little while. I
And that's
just
good.
thought, let's see what that feels like. I
Right.
didn't do it straight away. I said, can I figure this out myself
And it's, well, see,
first?
and I think that is where, can I figure this out? Meaning, is there a goal? Can I reach the goal by myself? And the
Yeah.
thing is there is no goal,
No, there
right?
isn't.
And so once you ask the question, you're already setting yourself up to failure.
Yes.
So what the question, instead of can I figure this out, what the question could be is, can I sit with this discomfort?
Mm.
And there is nothing to figure out. Can I sit with this? And then you just listen. And then the question, oh, I should do this. I should do that. I should do this. I should do that. And then you're like, okay, look at all those questions. What am I afraid of?
Mm.
Now you're learning about yourself. Sure, you are not doing what your tutor might want you to be doing. What you as the student, as the identifier of the being a student, might want to be doing because you want to move towards a goal, but you are here right now.
Mm.
And there is no goal to your life. You just live it. And here you are having feelings. And yes, when those feelings, oh, it's just like, okay, those feelings are just those feelings. Let's examine them rather than
Mm.
examine them from the identity of a student. Let's
Yep.
examine them from the identity of a being that I
Yes.
am. Right. And then we examine them and then we reach out to our tutor because we are a student in this body.
Mm.
but we are also, you know, God beyond it.
Mm.
So we get to sit here and write spokes, rim, hub, all that make a wheel. You're being a student, you're being Julie, all of those identities make you who you are. Yet it is the space where the axle goes, it is the space within you that makes it all worthwhile. And
Mm.
that's what we want to look at. Clay is formed into a vessel. You are a vessel, and that vessel has emptiness. Now, are you going to utilize that emptiness to bring new stuff? Or are you going to fill it with all the old stuff? Fear of being wrong, fear of making sure you have a goal, making sure that you have all of these things that, you know, the logic mind wants to fill it with. Or are you going to include in your life an emptiness so you can just observe it?
Mm.
You know,
I
the
like
next line.
observing. It's wonderful. It's
Yeah, when
wonderful.
you
I love doing it
yeah,
so much.
when you can just look at it and be like, wow, look at that, and look at me ask those questions, and look at all this, and not do it from the identity of being Julie, or not doing it from the identity of being a student or changing, or like, oh, I'm in transition, like me. I mean, I go through that a lot. And it's really important to be able to have that space,
Yeah.
because as this one ends, it says it's easy to see structure, your identity, right? But structure is there to expose the value of emptiness.
Nice.
And you can come
Yeah.
back up if there's more that you want to talk about.
Yes, I will. I'll come and
Yeah, yeah,
talk some more.
yeah. Yeah, I want to hear.
Space is a strange thing. Back in a minute, Martin John.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep. It's so important for us to recognize that the experience we're having has to do with the experience we're having, not the identity that we hold on to. Right? And when we can look at the experience that we're having from the aspect of emptiness, then we won't be formulating all of this stuff around it from a space of identity. It looks like Julie popped off for a second. She may pop back on. The app sometimes glitches, but so that's what Julie and I are here like looking at. Go on, Julie.
Yeah, I got popped off a couple of times. Then I thought
Yeah,
I'll just
that's
keep going and
popping off.
popped off. But yes, space is a very strange one, and to sit with sometimes, to be in or to experience that space. For me, when I sit in space, I get bombarded with opinions, thoughts, feelings, all of that comes bombarding into this space. And I try these days to just allow them to observe and then just let them go.
Yeah,
Because each moment is going to be different. Each moment is going to be, if I leave that space, then each moment can then be filled again. It's like almost like saying, I know nothing. And once I know something, I'm going to let it go so that I can receive the new no.
yeah,
It's like that. It's a very strange place to be, and it can, for myself, be filled with an anxiety, a fear, a pressure. All of these things can come bombarding into that space that I've made purposely.
yeah,
And yet I learn, is a learning thing to just allow them to pass, which is, it's pleasant to do that. It's a feeling of bliss when I do that.
yeah. So many. Well, we, as you know, grow up in this world of like Well, I mean, it's judgment. It's like
Yeah,
you are going to be graded. You know, in school, you are going to be graded by your peers. You're going to be graded. You're going to be judged, and and what you're going to be judged by is what you know and what you bring to the table and what you offer. And when we grow up and realize that, well, I'm going to get paid, which makes life easier, right? Like that's what everyone tells us. Like, well, it's gonna be
yeah,
easier if you have a job. It's gonna be easier if you make a lot of money, and everybody's gonna want $1 million and live on a fucking beach. Well, you know what? There's not that much beach in the world, and you can't do it, right? Now, just because you want what everybody else wants, you know, and you're told by some douchebag that you can get it, right?
yeah.
Like, doesn't mean that that's what your path is, you know?
That's the thing. That is the thing that every life entity has their own unique path amongst all other paths.
Right.
So we can't predict where we're going to be, even if we want to, because we have things like physicality, mentality, intellect, incidences, and all of these things that at any moment can change our path. And I think sometimes when we realize that and we think about that and then let that go, that's when that space between the spokes, the space where the axle is, that's where that exists, that
Yeah.
space.
You know, it just came to mind. It's just like so many people define like you can have the deepest well of abundance and not have a single dollar to your name.
Mm,
You know, and that is this idea of like spokes, tire, rim, and hub all make a wheel, right? Like all of these things make the thing that you're looking to have. But you can have all those things and have nothing worthwhile if you don't have the empty space. You can have all the money in the world and you can have your house on the beach and you can have all of this stuff. You can have all of this physicality, all of this physical stuff, and yet it not mean a damn because you haven't made it worthwhile by creating any space.
mm.
And you've defined it through others. You know, you defined what that means to others. You know, this is what it means to have a wheel. I have a wheel. I got spokes, tires, rim, and I got a hub. I got everything I need. And it's just like, no, you don't. We didn't tell you you needed the empty space. We just we lost track of the space. Right? When people buy houses and they just fill it full of stuff, right? This is when it becomes like increasingly useless.
Yes.
Like the more stuff you put in your house, the less space you have in your house.
And then the more you tend to the stuff,
Right. The more you
the
have to
more the
spend your
stuff has
time.
to be worried about,
Right.
has to be cleaned, it has to be updated, it has to be, and it's just a massive focus of all of that energy in you.
Right. And that takes from you.
Yeah.
And that's you holding on to an identity. Like if we move that to energy, right? Every identity is another thing you put in the house of your being.
Mm.
And you know, like, oh, I'm a musician. So then you got a piano right in the middle of your fucking like in the being that you are. It's like, okay, like here's your identity. What does that mean? Well, musicians stay up late and musicians drink coffee and musicians do these things, right? And musicians are you know,
And
they
moody creators.
right, you know, like they do these things that other people don't do because like that's the identity I have. I remember when I was in art school. And one of my teachers was like, there's a difference between real artists and everybody else. And they say real artists, like real artists and people who want to be artists. It's like real artists look like plumbers. People who want to be like artists look like artists.
Crikey.
And it was just something that I recognized. I was just like, wow, it's like if you want the identity, yeah, you can have the identity. You can go buy the clothes, or you can dye your hair, or you can do the
Have the
things.
books.
Yep,
Yeah.
you can have all the books and you can have all the things and you can embrace all of that stuff. And yet, it's not going to give you what it is you're looking for, because what you're looking for isn't in any of that. It is in you.
Yep.
So yeah, like, and this one is really, I think this one is good. This emptiness is valuable, and this empty space that you're experiencing right now is very valuable.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. How it sounds like you're breathing heavy. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm okay.
Okay.
Fresh air. Still vaping. See, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
I was gonna ask directly if that was what was going.
Yeah, you should. You should
Yeah.
always ask directly. It's
Yeah.
better than beating around the bush with me.
Yeah.
I like
No, I
it.
know. Like I
Donf.
was I
Give
was
it
like,
to
are
me.
you vaping like
Yes.
more now than you were?
No, less.
You're vaping less. Well, yeah, I think it's
I'm
your
making it
breathing
more
is
difficult.
pronounced. Your
Yeah, yeah,
breathing
it
is
is.
more
That's
pronounced.
also because you're right next to my mouth because I'm
Oh,
on
okay.
the speakerphone. But I'm trying to do something that maybe can be quite helpful. Now, Brad is very helpful because, as you know, I don't really want to be vaping for the rest of my days. It's not something that I like having to have a dummy,
Right.
a pacifier.
Yeah.
Um, I did do something about my gambling addiction.
Mm-hmm.
I got
Good.
rid of all the gambling sites, and that was that, really.
And how long ago was that?
That was not so long ago, Martin.
Okay.
I thought, well, if we're going to go to a new space, let's keep that
Let's.
space nice and clear.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's beautiful.
So that's gone. What I do now with this vape is I have to go outside because Brad has asthma, and if
Mhm.
I vape for more than twice in the house, he will cough.
Yeah.
I don't like him for it, but I will when I give up vaping. I will
Yeah.
love him for it.
Well, here's the like that's an interesting sort of thing, right? Because
It's
that
just
is
honesty. That's just
right.
blatant honesty.
But
That's
like that is also like you like you're going outside for him, and he, whether or not he realizes it or not, um he is asking you to change.
yes,
Like in
yes,
your mind, at the very least, he is asking you to change.
yes,
And that will create a bit of animosity and make it harder
yes,
for you to change.
yes.
And so that doesn't, like, so you have to recognize that he's not doing that, but
I'm
are
receiving it that
you're
way.
receiving it that way. So there is
Yeah.
a part of you that knows you have to face this. The more,
Yes.
the stronger we feel something, the more we have to address it. And so
Yes.
here it is. It is time for you to, like I always say, you just do one fucking thing at a time. You got rid of your gambling
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah, don't go crucifying
Don't
myself
go.
and setting
Yeah.
myself up for failure. So one
Right.
thing at a
Yeah.
time is go outside now.
Yeah.
Make it more work for yourself because I know that I am lazy. So I'm just not going to smoke it because I can't be bothered to get up from what I am doing now that is interesting to go and partake in this pacifier that I have. So
Right.
that's good. It's all good. It's all gravy.
And I always look at it like you're gonna do it until you don't.
That's right.
And you're still doing it, so that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I
and
accept that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
And
now
then,
at the point where I'm going, I don't like that I'm doing that at all.
yeah, I don't like
Yeah.
that I'm doing it. Right.
Yes.
Like, and that's okay. Like this is really like that is the way forward. It is not forcing yourself to do shit. Like it is not putting yourself, making yourself feel shameful or anything like that.
Or
You will stop.
making yourself go without. That's the
Right.
biggest thing. I think when people say I'm quitting or I'm giving up or I'm doing any of that stuff, they are already telling themselves that they are going to be empty,
Right.
missing, sad about,
Yeah.
going without. Yeah. So I don't tell myself that. I just say,
No. No.
I'll go outside if I have to.
Yeah. And when you do, when you're outside doing it, just be like, well, I'm going to do it until I don't.
Yeah.
And you can even say that to the Brad in your head.
Yes.
The one that's like, oh, I'm coughing because you do this inside, and oh, like
Yeah.
all of that, and it's like it's raining and it's dreary or whatever. I know you're on the coast, so it's probably pretty nice, but
No, it's
um
not. It's rubbish actually today.
um
But it's fine.
so sometimes that's even more romantic, right? Being outside smoking in the rain or whatever,
Yeah.
like I
That's
agree.
hardcore, that is. That's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
ooh.
But
But yeah,
yeah, all of that is, I think, and when it comes to quitting, it's really the not doing it is
that's
the
right.
easy part.
It's a choice
Yeah,
rather than a quit. It's
and
a choice.
and when that quit happens, whenever that happens, what's going to come back is everything that you were all like you're using this just like you're using gambling as a pacifier. Well,
Yeah.
what are you pacifying from? Now you get to
Yes.
see that and you have to
That's
deal
right.
with that. So because the gambling is something that was, taking up time, now you have time. Like this is where you you have to reply to that email. Why? Because I can't gamble. Like you have
Absolutely.
you
You
have to
hit it
write
the
that
nail
because
on the head.
right.
Yes.
Like I why didn't she reply? I wouldn't have noticed if I was gambling, but now I notice, and now I'm distracted because this was a pacifier. Now I get
Yeah.
to see what I'm pacifying from. You
Yeah.
know,
And
I get to
now
I
I'm
get to
back
just sit
to
there.
it.
Yeah,
Back to it. Hello, hooray. Hooray for
yeah.
noticing. That's all
And
I've
then
got to
and
say.
and that's the path, and there's no destination. And as long as there's no destination, you don't have anything to. And I know you just cut out. Um, you know, when there's no destination, then there's nothing there's nowhere for you to go. It's just be here in this moment and experience what is coming up. When like as this says, emptiness is valuable. This is like giving you this empty space because you're not filling that with gambling, because you're not filling this moment with gambling. There is value in this empty space. This empty space is showing you what it is, right? Tires, spoke, tire, rim, and hub all make a wheel, yet it is the space where the axle goes that makes it worthwhile. The axle goes, like, you have created a wheel that didn't have an axle. It didn't have that space for the axle to go. And now that you quit gambling, you just opened up some space. And that space now is showing you what was there, right? Now you have to excavate that space from the wheel. And by getting rid of your gambling, you get to see that more directly. This is happening with your vaping as well. So you vape when you feel something, and part of that is withdrawal, part of that is escape. It started as escape, and then it turned into withdrawal and escape. And now when you do put it down, you're going to go through withdrawal, and then once your withdrawal is sort of complete, you're going to go through the boredom. You're going to go through the having to look at all of that stuff that you were avoiding. It is easy to see structure. This is how this one ends, right? It is easy to see structure, but structure is there to expose the value of emptiness. All of these structures that you have to avoid the emptiness, avoid the space. All of these structures you have in place help you avoid that space. And yet, it is the emptiness within that space that is so valuable. And then you have to excavate it now, right? You get rid of that one thing so that you can have that empty space. Well, if anybody else wants to step up and talk about the Tao, please come up, pick a number between 1 and 81. Otherwise, I'm going to go back to number 60. I'm going to read number 60, and we're going to look at this for me today. While governing anything, use restraint. Treat it like cooking a small bit of fish. Getting it perfect takes less than you think. Centering all things in Tao, evil will have nothing to oppose, returning to a state of illusion. No, centering all things in Tao, evil, with nothing to oppose, returns to a state of illusion. All harm dissipates in the face of those who know their true selves. So, as I was talking to Julie a moment ago, this idea of like, when you know your true self, this last line, all harm dissipates in the face of those who know their true selves. If you know your true self, harm or fear or any problem dissipates in the face of those who know their true selves. If you know who you are, then this is not a problem. Problems are no problem for you, right? So sure, you do things, you have your pacifiers, you do your stuff, but you can face those things because you know your true self, and you know that you're pacifying from your true self. Just because you know your true self doesn't mean you're not going to pacify from it every now and again. Sure, you pacify from it, but then you can step away from those pacifiers one at a time, or however is best for you, because you know your true self. You don't take on more than you can chew. And this starts with while governing anything. While governing anything, governing your life, governing your body, governing your addictions, governing your family, governing your friends, governing your business, whatever it is, use restraint. Treat it like cooking a small bit of fish. Getting it perfect takes less than you think. Here's fish is an interesting way of cooking. Fish doesn't take anything to cook. It just cooks so quickly and so easily. I mean, some of you might think that that's not true, but like when you compare it to like chicken and pork and a lot of the other foods, like I think it's one of the quickest, like pound for pound, one of the quickest things to cook, because there's so much air in it. So air and it can bring, there's air and fat, right? So you can bring heat into the fish quickly, and cook it thoroughly quickly. And when you take a small bit of fish and put it on a pan, like sometimes it doesn't even take 2 minutes to cook. It's like one side, other side, done. Pull it. Because like it's gonna cook really fast. And this is the thing that we get in trouble with, right? When we have a business, we think we have to do something. When we have a life, we think we have to achieve something. When we have all of these things, we have this idea that we have to be involved with it. It's going to do just fine on its own. Just let it do its thing. It's not yours anyway, right? This is this line, it's not yours anyway, kind of comes up a lot in Tao, in the Tao Te Ching. It's not yours. And you're like, well, of course it's mine. I have an identity that says it's mine. No, bitch, like it's not yours. It isn't yours. This is just happening. You're having the experience. And your ego is attached to the praise that you would get if it was yours. But centering all things in Tao, evil will have nothing to oppose. As soon as you claim something, guess what evil has? Something to oppose, something to say, no, you didn't. That's not yours. You got that from somewhere else. You did this, you did that. You had privilege. You had all these things, right? Evil with nothing to oppose returns to a state of illusion. When you don't start like embracing things as yours, when you start to allow yourself the space to be and center all things in Tao, then evil with nothing to oppose returns to a state of illusion. you don't have anything to be afraid of, right? And that's where all harm dissipates. Once evil has nothing to oppose, all harm dissipates. There is no evil. Evil doesn't exist anymore. And in the face of those who, all harm dissipates in the face of those who know their true selves. And when you know your true self, well, you are connected to Tao. And that's who you are, right? This curious being who doesn't, it's not yours. This thing that you're doing in your life is not yours. This thing that you've achieved, that you so desperately want to take credit for. It's not yours. So off you go. Thank you so much for joining me for Tao of the Day. I appreciate Julie coming up and chatting with me. I love you so much. And I appreciate everybody who listens to Tao of the Day. Thank you so much. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.